Okay, welcome back to our channel. We're in the Rockies here. We help you plan trips to places in the Rockies, and one of the things I'm working on is an audio guide for Yellowstone. And so I've been learning a lot about this famous event in 1959, the Yellowstone Earthquake, which also goes by the names the Hebgen Earthquake and the Madison Canyon Earthquake. So I wanted to share some things with you about this incredible event, and I'm going to do so in 10 numbers. So number one, 7.2. This is the measurement, and I have to read this, on the moment magnitude scale. So apparently it's not the Richter scale anymore. I had no idea that this had changed, but it's the moment magnitude scale. And 7.2 is the largest earthquake ever recorded in the Rocky Mountains. This is comparable to the San Francisco earthquake of 1906, that famous earthquake. The epicenter of this was right on the edge of Yellowstone, but the most damage occurred in Madison Canyon, which is about a half hour outside of the park in West Yellowstone, right next to Hebgen Lake. Also, there were a lot of campers in this Madison Canyon. So the Madison River flows through the canyon. There was a couple of campgrounds down there and campers there when the quake happened. Okay, number two is the number 8. This is the number of states that felt this earthquake, including Montana, Idaho, Utah, and Wyoming. Number 3, 11:37 p.m. This is the time that the quake hit. So just at night, in the middle of the night, and it was luckily a full moon that night. Everybody commented on what an amazing, clear, beautiful evening it was, and luckily it was a full moon, because when it hit at night, people had to, it was constant. There was a lot of chaos, so they had to kind of figure out where people were and where to go. Number 4, the number 40. This is the number of seconds that the earthquake lasted. And when it happened, many people at first, many of these campers down in the canyon, thought that it was a bear attack. They thought their trailers or their tents were being shaken by a bear, because earlier that night one of the camp hosts had made the rounds and had warned people that there were bears in the area and to be careful. The number 5 is number 200. Okay, these are the approximate number of geysers in Yellowstone that went berserk right after the earthquake. Some of the springs that had never erupted before and never have since went shooting sky high. Springs like Sapphire Spring in Biscuit Basin just started going off, geysers going off all over the place. Also, one geyser, Clepsydra Geyser, was dormant. It started going off right after the earthquake, and it hasn't stopped since. The Old Faithful Inn and the Golden Gate Bridge up in Mammoth, they were both damaged during the quake. Some of the park headquarters in Mammoth Hot Springs were damaged, and there were rock slides all over the place throughout the park. Okay, number 6 is 80 million. This is the number of tons of rock that fell off in Madison Canyon, off of the side of the mountain. So it was like a slice of the mountain just cracked off. Just a slice of the mountain broke off, and this slice was about a mile, almost a mile long, and fell down into the canyon, into the river. It caused mighty winds that some of the people that were there said it tore their clothes off. The winds were so strong. Then it smashed into the river, which caused enormous waves that swept up onto the shore and swept people, trailers, and even cabins into the water, all of which are still there today. Number 7 is the number 1. These are the number of lakes that were formed by the earthquake. So when the rock slide came down and hit the river, it dammed up the river, which caused the river behind it, of course, to start to rise. The river had nowhere to go. Um, Now, interestingly, this was only 9 miles downstream from the other dam there, the man-made dam, which is Hebgen Dam, which forms Hebgen Lake. So in effect, this rock slide, which was rocks, mud, trees, the whole thing just came down, plugging up that canyon. In effect, what it did was it created two dams. There was already the man-made Hebgen Dam, and then about 9 miles down was this rock slide with another dam. So in between the Hebgen Dam and the rock slide dam, the Madison River started to rise and rise to form another lake, which is still there today, called Earthquake Lake. There was major concern when the quake first hit that the Hebgen Dam had burst, and so they evacuated some towns downstream. Well, they quickly found out that the Hebgen Dam held, remarkably. This dam was built in 1914 and survived this incredible quake, which actually caused Hebgen Lake, one side of Hebgen Lake, to drop a number of feet, which caused this slushing back and forth. Like if you were carrying a bowl of water, the water just went back and forth across the way on this Hebgen Lake. In fact, one of the people who had a cabin there on Hebgen Lake, her name was, I believe, Florence Miller. She was a 70-year-old widow. She had a little fishing business there, little business for people to stop in and buy some things. And her cabin, she woke up to the noise, and she ran outside right as her cabin was falling into the water. So part of the road and the cabins there just fell right into Hebgen Lake. She jumped a crevice with her dog, survived as her cabin went floating away into the water. So there were major concern, although Hebgen Dam held, there was still major concern that would fail, and then also that the new rock slide dam would fail at some point, and that there would just be a flood of water going downstream. Both remarkably held and still are there to this day. Okay, number 8 is the number 300. This is the approximate number of people who were trapped between the two dams. As the river was rising, creating another lake, these people were trapped between the dams because the roads from Hebgen Lake, right around Hebgen Lake, had been washed away along with Mrs. Miller's cabin. And so these people were trapped in between these two dams. And as the water was rising, they had to flee to higher ground. And they found a little spot that was higher than both of the dams that they ended up naming Refuge Point, where they waited for rescuers to come. So all throughout the next day, helicopters and smoke jumpers and people were coming to rescue them. Okay, number 9 is the number 28 or 29. These are the number of people who died in this earthquake in Madison Canyon. They have a plaque there with 28 names of the people who died at the site today. It's located on a big boulder right next to the site that tumbled across the canyon, and they didn't move it or anything like that. They just put a plaque on there with the 28 people who died. But there was one person who was hiking that day, that weekend, that evening, and they never saw him again. So there's great speculation that he probably died in the earthquake. These deceased people include one family who, sadly, the two parents slept in their own tent, and they had their 3 children sleep in their own tent about 15 feet away. A boulder landed on the 2 parents' tent, crushing them and killing them, as the 3 children just 15 feet away survived. This is the Stryker family. Okay, number 10 is the number 50,000. This is the number of people who visit the visitor center there each year to learn about this earthquake. So thankfully the Forest Service recognized what a meaningful, significant event this was, and they built an earthquake, a visitor center right there by the rock slide, right there by the new dam. Um, and I camped there earlier this year. I camped right at Beaver Creek, which is right on the shores, or right next to Earthquake Lake, which is also known as Quake Lake. And it's a little bit eerie because there are all these dead trees sticking out of the lake. Well, of course, these trees were just there in the canyon, and the lake filled in and has killed these trees, but they still stick up there out of the lake as just a reminder of this incredible event. Okay, and then one more bonus here. So for my 11th number, I just want to put up here many. There were many heroes, a number of heroes involved in the rescue of these 300 or so people who were stranded between the two dams. Hugh Potter, a fellow named Hugh Potter, led the relief efforts from Helena, Montana. He was in charge of a government agency there. And so the state and local governments worked together with the federal government. Airplanes and helicopters from Hill Air Force Base in Utah flew in, and there was just an amazing effort to rescue these people. Bulldozer crews plowed new roads so that people could get in and out within a day. There was great concern that the water was going to plug up so much it was going to burst that rock slide dam, and so over about the next month they plowed a spillway to go around it that's still there today. So there were smoke jumpers from the Forest Service who parachuted down into the refuge point to administer relief to the many injured people who were there. There was one woman named Tootie Green who was a nurse. She was camping there, and fortunately she wasn't injured, but when she saw some of these other people who were injured, she started administering relief to them. She became quite a famous hero, and I actually tried to contact her. I looked her up to see if I could contact her for my guides for some of the stuff I'm working on, and sadly she died just earlier this year in May of 2020 during the COVID pandemic, and she they weren't even able to have a funeral for her, but she is known to be quite a hero in this whole episode. One fellow from Missoula, Montana, Ray Gerlach, he flew his own helicopter, made about 20 trips back and forth to get some of these people to hospitals and to safety. And of course there were many medical personnel at the hospitals nearby who administered to many injured people. So that does it for this video here. Just a remarkable event that deserves to be remembered. So next time you go to Yellowstone, just kind of you may be able to go visit this visitor center. It's about a half hour outside of the park in West Yellowstone. Worth a trip to go see this remarkable event and the aftermath that's still there today. Thanks for watching.